Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Becoming an Entrepreneur. My name is Rebecca Luber, and I'm the Director of Career and Business Engagement with the University of Minnesota Alumni Association. Welcome. And we have a few introductory slides before we get started. So I'll begin. First, we always like to thank our members and donors of the Alumni Association for powering our alumni webinar series. Thank you very much for your support. And if you're interested in becoming a member, you may follow the information on your screen, which will also be emailed to everyone afterwards. And today is Give to the Max Day with a focus on supporting our Alumni Association's Career Alumni Support Fund. The Career Alumni Support Fund powers our alumni webinar series as well, and events such as Career Month and other career resources. Gifts will be matched dollar for dollar up to $9,000 thanks to the generous support of our Alumni Association board members. And so this information will also be shared with everyone as well. We'd also like to thank our Maroon and Gold Network and our Minnesota Alumni Market for presenting today's webinar. The Maroon and Gold Network is a free online platform for career advice and networking, and it's a great opportunity to connect with your fellow Gophers. You'll be able to sign up for that at the maroonandgoldnetwork.umnalumni.org. And our Minnesota Alumni Market is a first of its kind online store dedicated to supporting U of M alumni businesses and their products. You can learn more at mnalumnimarket.com. All right. And if you're interested in today's event, there might be some other events that you have an interest in, such as Navigating Your Identity LGBTQ in the Workplace on December 10th and Career Month, which is February. And that information can also be found on our website. If you'd like to tune in by phone by chance, you can dial the number 646-558-8658 and then dial in the webinar ID, which is 989-3765-382849. And if you have questions at any time during today's webinar, you may enter them into our Q&A box, and we'll save about 20 minutes or so at the end of our webinar to answer many of your questions. And we'll also have the recording of today's session sent out to everyone within about 2 to 3 business days for all those who registered for our webinar today. All right, so without further ado, I'll begin by having our panelists introduce themselves, starting with Felipa. So Felipa, please turn on your camera and begin introducing yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Felipa Cespedes, owner and operator of FotoGenic Minnesota Photo Booths. And I graduated from the University of Minnesota in 2013 from the College of Liberal Arts. I majored in political science with an emphasis in communication studies. I'm also part of the University of Minnesota's Alumni Association. So I had my card here. So join, definitely some good perks, and I need to get on it on using more of the perks that I get with being in the Alumni Association. I also work a full-time job. I'm currently employed at the Minnesota Office of Higher Education, and I also have a few other businesses. So I'm very honored to be here and excited to hear the rest of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. You sound very busy. Okay, next we'll have Kiara introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Kiara Ellis, and I'm the owner of The Nail Bar located in Uptown, Minneapolis. We are a full-service nail salon, and I'm trying to think of all the things. I graduated at the University of Minnesota in 2012 with a bachelor's in family social science and attended the graduate school in social work for a master's and graduated in 2017. So a 2-time alum, very proud of the University of Minnesota. I also do work full-time at the University of Minnesota, so Maroon and Gold definitely runs through my veins. I am the Senior Manager of Community Outreach and Engagement for the Masonic Cancer Center as well. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And next we'll have Corey introduce himself.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Corey Kopacek, and I graduated from Carlson in '98 with a degree in finance. In 2007, I started Synergy Imports out of my basement, and our company helps organizations market and promote themselves through the use of promotional products and branded merchandise. Other people like to say we sell swag. I like to say we sell fun. We work with a wide variety of organizations across the country, but our niche market is really colleges and universities. We've worked with over 400 schools across the country, and are a licensed vendor at the University of Minnesota, where we've worked with over 30 departments on campus, including the Alumni Association. So thanks for having me, and I look forward to the discussion today.
Yes, thank you and welcome. And next we'll have Dustin introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. This is Dustin. I'm the CEO and founder of Berry Honey. We're an omni-channel producer of honey and hive products. So if you think of like CPG, like jars on the shelf, or food manufacturers, so like the Honey Nut Cheerios of the world, we supply honey for all these types of companies. Am I coming through? All right, there we go.
Yes.
So I attended the CCC, College Continuing Education, and did a design program between Carlson School, where I focused on entrepreneurial management, and CFANS, where it was applied economics or agricultural economics, essentially. I'm obviously part of the Alumni Association. You can find our products on the Alumni Association markets, and we have ties into the Carlson School's Grow North program, and work with all the alumni that we network with through my years at the U of M, and still enjoy the relationships with them today. Thank you for having me today.
Yes, thank you and welcome everyone. All right, so let me stop sharing my screen. And so my first question that I have for everyone is, how have you always owned your own business? If not, what were you doing before you decided to transition into owning a business? And what made you decide to embark on this journey? And I'm happy to repeat this question as well. And so we'll begin, I'll just like go in random order. We'll start with Dustin, and then Corey, Kiera, and Felipa.
So no, I didn't always own my own business. I think I was always a entrepreneur at heart. I always wanted to try to figure out how to work for myself. But I started my career as a chef. I traveled the world through my 20s, cooking in restaurants and hotels around the world, and then eventually came back to Minnesota. And it was a kind of a life event where I got into a bad car wreck and was in the hospital for in and out for 2 years. And this was kind of a reimagining of the pathway of my life, and started my career at the U of M, and used every assignment and every professor along the way to develop what my business was, and that was kind of how the business of Bear Honey started.
Great, thank you.
Am I next?
Yes.
Nope, I'm in the same boat. I started out actually as an intern in the Gopher Sports Marketing Department when I was in college at the U. Right after school, I worked for a consulting company that did feasibility studies for new stadiums and arenas. And then worked full-time in the Gopher Sports Marketing Department for a little while. And then while there, I met a guy that I was buying promotional products from. It was just the giveaways for various events, whether it was football games, basketball games, you name it. And I courted him for a while and talked him into hiring me. And he was just a one-man shop, and I went to work for him for a little while. And after about 4.5 years, I decided to take a run at it myself. And since 2007, we've been going at it. So it's fun.
Awesome.
I'm still not only an entrepreneur, so I still work full time. My background is in social work. I've worked in human service programs and community work for my entire career, from chemical dependency, homelessness, diabetes, and now in cancer, but all very much rooted in different aspects of creating access for folks in their life, different pieces of life skills, and now specifically in public health and healthcare. So I decided to open my business because of an actual volunteer experience that I had with the Minnesota Black Chamber of Commerce. So just the exposure to Black entrepreneurs in the Twin Cities that were extremely successful, and through mentorship, I thought I could own a business. And if I did, what would it be? I saw a gap in diversity in the workforce in the nail industry. I've grown up my entire life loving nail care. I like change my nails every single day to match my outfits from like 7th grade to 9th grade almost. I feel like I got my first job in high school just to get my nails done. It has always been a place of self-care. As a social worker, that's something that we prioritize for sure. And I thought that I could do a really great job in building some infrastructure and also creating opportunities for other Black and brown nail technicians who wanted to be in the industry to have a salon place to work. And so we're really guided and rooted in building community and having a place of learning and education in the nail care industry, and also providing opportunities for Black and brown nail techs in the industry to work in a salon and also grow in their own leadership skills in their craft. So that was a big piece of why I decided to own a business, not because I necessarily wanted to be much more busy, but the passion really drove me. And now that I'm in it, it really does complement some of the other community building and advocacy pieces that I've been able to do in other areas of my work.
Have I always owned my own business? No, but I've kind of always had little side hustles up until I graduated college. And because of the University of Minnesota and working a full-time job, being involved in student organizations, being a full-time student, and just doing a lot of, and my internship with the Council on Crime and Justice, after graduating college, I felt like I have nothing to do. Like I just go to work. So it was definitely one of those things where after I graduated college, I started working for Thomson Reuters, and I was still working my college job at T-Mobile. And for me, it was one of those things where I wanted my weekends. I don't know why I thought a photo booth business would give me my weekends, but I think it was more so of the being able to provide a service to someone that I enjoyed. So I definitely enjoy fun, and I love pictures. So I've always taken pictures, a lot of pictures. I'm not a photographer. I love what photographers do, but my editing skills are not up to par for photography. So I just love capturing like raw photos. Oftentimes my friends would make fun of me because they'd be like, you're not getting all the right angles. I'm like, who cares? Just take the picture. Like, it's fine. So for me, it was realizing that I loved T-Mobile and what it gave me, which was that people interaction. It was the consultation piece. It's the just the interacting, seeing someone get a new phone was fun. So when people get pictures of themselves at events, it's fun, right? So that was one of the reasons why I decided to start a photo booth company. And again, it was that piece of, I made a lot of money for T-Mobile. And so I wanted, and also Thomson Reuters, and I wanted to make that money for myself. And that's when I officially had started an LLC. And I had the option of either franchising or starting it from my very own. And I decided to just start off on my very own. So that's what kind of made me decide to go on the journey, was that I found success in making other people money. I could also find that success in myself. So I invested in myself.
Yeah, that sounds like an excellent reason. And that kind of leads us to our next question. So many of you already touched on this, but feel free to expand. And the question is, how did you come up with your business idea? And it sounds like you touched on it, but feel free to expand anywhere you like. And we'll start with Kiera, then Dustin, Corey, and Felipa.
Yeah, it was really about figuring out what type of business I want it to be in. I have traveled to other states and like kind of see through different like social media and websites, Black owned nail salons. And I thought they gave such a different experience. Like in a hair salon, like I had been going to my same hairstylist since I was like 12 or 13 years old. I had a great relationship with her. She was a part of every one of my big events and moments in my life. And I also wanted that same experience in a nail salon. So I felt like I often like walked in, I didn't know exactly what I was getting, or I didn't get what I wanted. There were communication issues and barriers, and I thought this could be a better experience. And so having the diversity in the workforce, but then also just taking a very educational approach to the way that we deliver services. We offer options, we get to know our clients, we get to understand what their lifestyle is and what their lifestyle needs are. So we just approach the work in a different way. And oftentimes our clients return because they love the atmosphere. They really create relationships with our staff. It's a very, very diverse workplace in general. And I think that definitely contributes to the culture of the beauty industry. And we really get to kind of make some new noise. And I thought, why not? Why not start to be creating some spaces like this that welcomes people?
Great. I think Dustin, you're next, and then Corey and Felipa.
Yeah, this is a really valuable discussion. I love hearing your guys' stories. This is actually really cool. I'm glad to be on this phone call, let alone a panelist of it. So my journey down this road and how I came up with this idea wasn't a eureka moment, like I found this great thing. It was more like a conglomeration of experiences that kind of piled on top of each other. As I'd mentioned, I was a chef, and so I had a large network of local farmers that were supplying our restaurants. And when working with one of them, I had experienced being with bees and opening a hive and just seeing the interaction that the bees had with each other and the outside world, and the smells and sounds of a hive just kind of entranced me right away. So I had started that as a hobby. And as I was going through school, that hobby kind of burgeoned into a small business where we were selling at farmers markets, because I ran out of friends that were chefs to give my honey to. So I had to find a way to like sell this, because I had more and more bees every year. And my hobby quickly kind of grew beyond me and became a business. And I, as it started, it was, well, what am I going to do with this business? And I with this thinking of like developing a co-op of beekeepers to help supply this honey and give back to the community and develop the network of farmers that I already had in my life from being a chef. And as it grew, it kind of took its own forms, and I used my professors as consultants. And, with every good grade, there was something that like went into my business plan. And with every, bad grade, I was like, well, back to the drawing board on that. And so the business kind of just grew and grew and grew. And eventually I was selling into grocery stores and, discovered that I had a full-fledged business by the time I graduated, and it's kind of snowballed beyond there. So it wasn't a one thing that said, oh, this is my business idea. It was, probably 4 years of trial and error and coming up with different iterations of what the business could be before we figured out that this is what the business really is. And I think it went through like 3 names while I was in school before it actually became Bear Honey.
That's awesome. Yeah, for me, like I don't think I never really had the intention of starting a business. It was just sort of one of those deals where I'd been working for a guy for 4.5 years, and wasn't really sure what direction that company was going. Loved the industry, loved the people that we worked with, and just sort of thought there was a better way. And really, that's kind of why I kind of decided to break off and just take a shot at it, because there was. I knew it was definitely an industry that I wanted to be in, and I knew I loved the people and the products and the creativity and the sales side of it. And certainly promotional products isn't a new business, right? I mean, there's probably like 20,000 competitors in the country. There's probably a few thousand in the state of Minnesota alone. So it was a busy space, but again, it's a relationship business. Because anybody can buy a pen or a mug or whatever from, whether it's online or anybody else. So like, why are they going to buy it from us? And So for me, it was just all about the relationships and just trying to find a better way to do things.
For me, I just felt it in my body that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. It was just figuring out what it was, right? And it was all about, I'm very logical, I guess you could say. So I needed to figure out something that was in my budget. Two, I didn't have any investors or anything like that, but how I came up with the idea of starting a photo booth company, I used to live near the quarry. And so by the Cup Foods and the Target, and there's an Office Max there, now Office Depot. And I would always, one, I love school supplies. So I would always just go into Office Max and just kind of like hang out at the desks. I know, don't judge me. So I would like hang out at the desk and like pick up the magazines and like just sit there and like look through the magazines. And there was one magazine that was like Start Your Home Business magazine. And I picked it up and I was just like flipping through it and I saw the photo booth. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And I loved pictures. And so I bought the magazine. I still actually have the magazine. And I went home and literally for 1 month straight, I couldn't stop thinking about the photo booth company. And I saved from the first day. I'm like, you know what, I might do it. And I just bought it. And I did a lot of research at the time. There are only 16 photo booth companies. I've had FotoGenic for 6 years, coming up on 7. There were none that were woman owned, let alone Latina owned. And I decided to go for it. And yeah, I found something that fit in my little Mazda 3, ordered it. And because I'm kind of logical in that way, I was like, I have to pick it up. Mind you, I'm not a big person. I'm 4'11". And so I had to figure out like, where am I going to put this? How can I lift it up? No, if no one's going to help me move it around, I need to make sure I buy something that is going to do it. And so my first photo booth looked like a speaker box. But at the time it was, trendy, that style. So that's how I came up with my business idea, looking through a magazine at Office Depot.
Well, that's exciting and interesting. Thank you for telling that story. And so I'm sure the journey of being an entrepreneur hasn't been easy. And so what did you wish you knew before starting this journey? And we'll begin with, let's see, we'll go with Felipa. Oh, you just spoke. So let's go with Corey, Dustin, Kira, then Felipa.
Yeah, I'd say probably the biggest challenge for me was not really truly understanding how difficult the HR aspect would be of growing a business. And I'd say specifically like finding the right people for each role within our business. One of the things that we struggled with, like I said, I started out by myself for like a year and a half. And then you post something on, whatever job board it would be back in 2007. And you'd post this position and it'd be like, super, lax working environment, wear whatever you want, unlimited vacation policy, basically, as long as we get our work done, relatively good pay or like, above average market pay. And you'd get like 5 applicants or something. And then you'd be looking and be like, Target posts this position where there's like not much responsibility and, the pay is kind of junk and whatever, and they could get 200 applicants or something. And so from us, I'm just like, how are we going to find like great people when our application pool is 5 or whatever? And certainly things are, I don't want to say they're easier now, because we've struggled just like trying to find the right people to fit certain roles, because for us, like our expectations are, we say that we want to deliver a perfect product or a perfect order 100% of the time, and that's our goal. And so it's just hard finding other people that share those same expectations, I guess. And so by far for me, it's been the HR aspect of it. And it's like, I love people, but it's just like finding the right ones, because it's like, for me, if you're not going to meet our expectations because our customers' expectations are up here, it's just not going to work. And, don't stick around too long if things don't work out. So.
What about you, Dustin?
Yeah, I can agree with Corey definitely on the HR side. Finding good help is very, very difficult, and I think I made the mistake on the early side that I hired people that match my personality. I always had this idea that I should hire people that I'd be willing to sit down and have a cup of coffee with and be able to enjoy a day with, and after doing that for several years and having people that were like me in the business, I realized that I needed people that were not like me in the business. And so it started morphing. And as I brought on people that were the polar opposite of me, maybe very good at something that I wasn't, I started fulfilling the gaps in the qualities that I had in my own, and being able to recognize what I needed to fill those gaps was a very important thing. And so as our workforce expanded, I started hiring people that were very different. And as the company grew, those people have now become some of our most important players in our as our employees. So, today we have 8 full-time employees and then about a dozen part-time employees depending on the time of year. And those full-time employees that have been with us, I think our minimum employee has been with us now for 3 years. So we've been able to establish this great kind of workforce of people that are different than each other, very different, but we all fill in our roles very well. And then on the other side, I would say that, finances was probably my biggest weakness when I started. So understanding of the financial implications of growth and how to speak to investors or potential investors to grow your company has been one of the most difficult things that I wish I had concentrated more on in school as well.
Thank you. And Kira?
I would say HR, but I won't. But I think one of the things that I wish I knew before was how detailed or deep in the numbers you would really need to be. I think when you develop a business plan, it's very much surface level. There's a ton of unexpected differences in the numbers, volumes. We're a service-based business, time, supplies. All of those things matter the most. So the nail bar is just a little over a year old. We piloted in June, went and renovated a space in November. So we were closed from November to January and then closed again for COVID. So it has been a very interesting first year of business, to say the least. I did get wise enough in the beginning, in the first quarter of this year, to hire an accountant to actually go over my books. Like, I established a QuickBooks, but I really didn't do anything with it. Like, I felt like it was something that I needed to do, and I plugged in the account so things would happen. But I had no idea really exactly how to understand what was going, or how to recode things and all of that. So instead of attempting to be the jack of all trades, I hired somebody, and it was one of the best investments that I made for my business, because then everything started to make sense. And so then investing also in some guides that were already created to analyze my business, the services, our pricing, our entire business model with actual numbers. Because in a business plan, you have dreamy numbers until you have had some time in the work. Then you have some really hardcore numbers, so you know what you're shooting for. And that has been a really big game changer for quarter 2 of this year for us, I would say. So finances.
For me, it was figuring out that there are conferences that you should probably attend before you start the business that you're thinking about. I spent a lot of money because I didn't really have a full view of it. And so that's why attending those conferences for that area is very important, because had I would have attended the conference, I wouldn't have bought a speaker box photo booth. So, and then after the next year I went and I'm looking at all these lovely photo booths, which now I own 4 photo booths, and they're elegant luxury, they're beautiful photo booths. So that was probably one thing that I wish I would have known, is just attend a conference about that area. You learn a lot, you meet some people. Another thing is sometimes it's good to just save a little money and buy the better product, because it is true, you spend more money trying to be cost effective and you end up buying it anyways. So that's probably the thing I would recommend, shopping around. And I'm very impulsive, hence why I just started a business after thinking about it 1 month. So just kind of take your time and find a group of business minded people, because that was one thing. I was one of the first friends to start a business, and sometimes it was hard to get motivated again, because my circle didn't evolve, include other small business owners or people in peers that were wanting to start a business. So definitely conferences, finding some peers, and take a little bit of time to save up some money to buy better quality stuff.
Thank you, Felipa. You actually added some good information there about like resources and just kind of knowing what's available out there to you. So that leads us to our next question. What resources have you utilized to help grow your business? And so we'll start with Dustin, then Kiera, then Felipa, then Corey.
Yeah, the U of M has been great. So while I was there, obviously I said that, I was using my professors as consultants, but also the vast access that you have to databases was invaluable in doing market research and trying to figure out, what kind of business would work as we figured out, like what was the missing in the gap for the market of honey products. And we were able to go through and kind of whittle down to what that was before we launched our business. And since graduation, I've been involved in the Grow North program at Carlson School, and that has been great for facilitating relationships. I would say network. I can't tell you how important it is to establish a great network of close, other people in the same industry as you, or in other industries also. So I've sat on different boards with different business owners, and you're not often getting paid for your advice or paid for your expertise, and that's fine. You're there to cultivate your network of people that I think there's a saying, it's not like who you know, it's or what you know, it's who you know. And I would add on to that who you know will tell you what you do need to know. As Felipa was talking about, like that experience on the front end is so invaluable. And people that have already made the journey that you're on can give you some of those tips and hints to tell you, hey, you should watch out for this, or don't go down that road. You're going to waste a lot of money doing that. And listen to them and gathering from their experiences is something that is definitely valuable and something that can be accomplished through something like the Alumni Association at the U of M.
For me, I would say I am a resource queen. I will just say I am one of the biggest pieces of advice I've ever gotten was from one of my high school teachers that said, you are your best advocate. No one else knows what you want except you. So you have to tell everybody. I do not try to be the jack of all trades. I know what I don't know, and I seek information from people that do know those things. So I'm actually connected and got a business coach through MEDA, which is a local nonprofit in Minneapolis that serves minority entrepreneurs. They really helped me stay accountable more than anything. But then it's also this other huge network of coaches and consultants that are connected to other businesses that keep my business in mind when opportunities arise. So I'm definitely well connected in those types of spaces. I am a part of 2 different women entrepreneur networks that host different pieces of continuing education. Essentially, what Felipa was saying, like investing your time and energy, and sometimes your money, most of the time your money too, in having opportunities to be exposed exposed to different areas of your business or things that you may not have been thinking about. Like, you need a marketing plan per se, but it's great to hear from a panelist that is a social media expert and can talk about how you start to create, how do you operationalize your social media or the way that you promote and market. Like, some of those things are very, very helpful. And so not only do I give resources in my day job to people and encourage them to take them, I definitely am not shy to be seeking out resources and knowledge from people. And oftentimes, and a lot of the time it is free. There's so much information out there. There's so many workshops and things that are being offered that at least give you a sense of things that you're doing. So just taking advantage of all the opportunities that come our way for education.
Great.
Yes, I second that. Finding resources within the local community are really great. But for me, the resources that I use was the internet. And one thing, I guess, that helped me utilize resources, kind of mimicking Kiera, was a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And so you have to tell people, I started a photo booth company. I do weddings, I do conferences. And so people will start to connect you as soon as you build those relationships, kind of what Corey was saying. And a lot of my clientele came from college. And so being the resources for me, I didn't use very many community resources because I just kind of just started going. And but I did attend a lot of like conferences. I have invested in e-courses, and yeah, those are the type of resources that in the area that I'm a part of, because I don't have a location. It's a little bit different than with Kier and Corey. I run the photo booth company out of my home. So the resources that I need are very different from someone who actually has a place, right? My place is my home, so I need that to be running. So, but yeah, that's what I would say as far as the resources that I've utilized.
Yeah,
And the Alumni Association, sorry.
I'll echo what everybody else said. I agree. Absolutely networking. Conventions and trade shows is a big one for us. I'd say probably like 90% of our sales are outside the state of Minnesota. So for us, it's not cost effective to travel and see customers all the time. So to be able to get together and be able to see, 30, 40, 50 customers all at once at a convention or a trade show is like a great way for us to spend money. In terms of additional resources on the sales side, it's all about people. We just need to find people that are into developing relationships. On the back end, we use MailChimp for a marketing tool. It's super cost effective and it's paid for itself 10 times over. We're in the process of changing over our website to more of like an industry specific website that has some e-commerce functionality, because we think that that's going to help us reach, a broader client base. And then we use like an industry specific CRM called Common SKU. And it's like, it was built for the promotional product industry. So, there's
great. I know we want to get time for questions here, but I do have one more question. I think maybe it's top of mind for many folks. How have you pivoted your business during COVID? And so maybe just a minute or so. I know it's a big discussion in itself. So I'll have Felipa start, then Corey, Dustin, and Kira.
Yes. So with the photo booth industry, obviously events is what I do. So a way that I've been able to pivot is I now offer virtual photo booths for conferences, mainly for conferences. I've also done some family gatherings. So for the holidays that are coming up, what's unique about it is that yes, the photo booth is not physically there, but all of the photos kind of come together and it creates a unison photo image that you're able to print out later on to kind of share with everyone. It also does boomerangs and gifts. And so it's video as well, 15-second video with audio. So there's just a way to transition because now everything is virtual. So having a virtual photo booth is going to definitely help bring everyone together in a sense where everyone's pictures is kind of there. So
Very cool.
And I've done, oh, sorry. And to add, I know I only have a minute, but because I pivoted, I was able to go into my back office and figure out what's bringing me money, what's not bringing me money, doing the balances, getting ready for taxes, even though it's it's around the corner now. But so that's how I've been able to pivot, and I was able to implement systems to help me throughout the rest of the year, because eventually we'll be going back to traditional parties.
Yeah, for us, our business literally went from, to zero that week of March 16th. We had orders pending with the Final Four, the College World Series, a whole bunch of different colleges for baseball and softball promotions. And literally like the week of March 16th, it was like, we were in a UFC fight on it with it wearing a straitjacket. I mean, like it was zero. The only phone calls we were getting were people calling to cancel orders. And so that was a little bit of a huge shock. But I got a call from one of our customers who had a worldwide real estate client, and they were looking for like 500,000 disposable masks. And I'd never sold a disposable mask in my life. But we work with, a bunch of factories overseas. I've had relationships with them for 15 plus years, and started getting on the phone and talking to them. And obviously the disease, started over there, and they were already selling masks. And we started selling disposable masks, and then reusable masks, and all sorts of PPE, which we had never sold in our life. And, it's for us, we were able to turn around, and because we had relationships overseas, we were able to get supply on a lot of these products before anybody could domestically. So it helped us out, and it saved our year. So, this year's been a banner year, but we have a lot of work to do coming into next year now, because there's, thousands of people selling masks and sanitizer and everything else now. So made it work. We'll see where we go from here.
Yes. And we love our Minnesota Alumni Association's Minnesota mask.
Provided
so
these.
Thank you. Yes.
Go to the alumni market, get your mask.
Yes.
So yes, in how did we pivot? This has been an interesting thing. So prior to COVID, we had just hit this point where over 50% of the meals that are consumed in America were now consumed in restaurants. And when COVID hit and the preliminary lockdown this spring, that completely shut down all the restaurants in the state, which had become a large portion of our sales. And so we were like, oh, well, what do we do now, right? Luckily, one of the things that we do concentrate on is risk management. As entrepreneurs, everything we do from, day-to-day decisions to like bet the farm, strategic moves is all about risk management. How much risk can we minimize as we make our decisions? And so what we have done to minimize that risk and be able to pivot quickly is our sales force is trained across all sales channels. And so if someone's just selling to food manufacturers, well, they've also sold at a farmer's market, and they've done a demo in a store. They are familiar with all parts of our customer contacts. And what that has allowed us to do is that we were able to quickly pivot all our sales staff that were working in restaurant sales away from restaurants and start concentrating in other areas. And so we saw that CPG or grocery store sales started to increase. And so we figured out a way to like expand our sales in grocery stores and be able to make this a positive growth year rather than a shrink year. So that's one of the things that, I would recommend. It's all about risk management, right?
Excellent.
And so for us, we pivoted a lot. I think one of the things that I really wanted to create in this business was some stability for my staff in terms of their employment. Commonly in the industry, servicers are hired as independent contractors, which would have made the shutdown of our business extremely difficult for them to support their families. So thankfully, we employ all of our servicers, which is amazing because they were able to access unemployment benefits right away with no delay, which was really great. When we were able to reopen, we definitely had to change our flow. We had to change the culture of hospitality, the things that we offered for folks, the way that we spaced out our schedule, which ultimately impacts revenue as well, because we're doing less services with less time, with less people. We have capacity limits imposed by the state for the amount of people that can be in the space, thus the amount of employees that can work their regular schedule. So we've pivoted a lot. The salon industry has always been heavy in sanitation, but with COVID, it's increased tremendously. The amount of disposables, the PPE that we provide for our staff as well as clients. So those things have all changed a lot in the way that we do business, in the way that and just the culture and environment. It's not welcoming to welcome somebody in a mask. Like, we have to do it, and we are totally pro mask. Everybody must wear them. We want to protect the health and safety of our clients and our staff, most importantly. But it was just about changing the way that we interact with people and making sure that they still feel welcome and not so out of touch. We're saying, like, stay in your car until you get a text message from us. Don't come in without, those kinds of rules and changes really do change the culture and the way that we do the service. But I think we've been able to really show and promote how we're taking all of these safety precautions for everyone's health and benefit. And we've received lots of positive response about the way that we've maintained the cleanliness and the safety for COVID in these times. So a ton, but we're still slowly, hiking up. And actually in the face of all of the civil unrest that was happening in the Twin Cities, our business was boarded up at one point in time during the protests. During the protests, we actually saw a huge wave of support for Black and minority owned businesses that was coming in. So we had an extremely busy summer. We had a lot of new customers coming in wanting to try our business. So there were some pieces of COVID and the civil unrest that put us in a spotlight as a service as an industry that doesn't have as many Black owned businesses in it, providing a full salon experience. And we got a lot of free marketing and promotion and news articles and things like that during this time, which was great for our business, actually.
Sounds like each of you have had to do a lot of pivoting, and you've taken away a lot of learnings. And it looks like we have some questions here from folks who like to expand their knowledge here. Let's see, there's some questions here. I haven't read them in advance, so I'm reading them out loud right now. Have you ever had a larger company or corporation approach you about selling your business? If so, what factors encouraged you to refrain from accepting their offer? If not, would you consider selling your company?
So this is something like in our business that is a constant discussion. So in the CPG world or consumer packaged goods world, there's two types of businesses. There's the lifestyle business where you're just starting a business to conduct your daily business. Maybe you have a family, you want to spend more time with your kids and less time at the office, and it's not about making a large growth projections. Then there's the other side where you're trying to grow your business to the point where it can be sold, and the numbers of like what your top line sales or your overall sales need to be are constantly shifting, and depending on which category you're in, this is something that is different. So long answer short, yes. There's different steps to selling your business. Things that have kept us from doing it are, we believe that there's more growth opportunity in our business to raise the value of the business before we sell it. And so that's what's on our mind.
What about you, Corey?
Similar answer. I think that there's been quite a bit of consolidation in our industry in the last few years. And whether it's companies that, don't internally have the resources, whether it's a graphic designer or, someone to, manage an office or whatever the case is. And so I've always refrained similar. I love what I do. I really don't want somebody else telling me what I have to do every day. So that's part of it too. And it's just sort of, I guess I don't know what I would do if I wasn't doing this, because literally I wake up every morning and I'm excited to go to work, and it's part of me. It's who I am. It's what I want to do. And, I think, similar to what Dustin said, it's like when the time comes and it's right, if, we can, grow this to whatever that number is, and there's a lifestyle change that I want to make, that's probably be the time that I would consider doing it. And right now I just love it too much.
I think I saw a head shake from Kira. No. And what, Felipa, what about yourself? Nope. Okay. And it looks like while we wait for more questions to come into the Q&A, it looks like there's some questions. Oh.
I would sell if the money was right.
Oh. Putting it out there.
Yeah, make me offer.
Yes, for every entrepreneur. If the offer's right, we'll go.
Yeah. Trust me, I know how much I spent in the business, so go ahead, throw me a number. But don't be disrespectful.
I know we answered some questions earlier on before, but I'll ask them to everyone here. What if you are working full time? How would you suggest that you go out on your own? Are you debt free or have a nest egg of money saved first, or did you just jump in without a lot of planning?
So thanks for your question, Gina. Definitely, I do work a full-time job. I've always worked a full-time job. And how did I know I wanted to go off on my own? I think when you go to work and you feel drained, right? And not because we do labor work, but because your job is no longer giving you opportunities for growth, right? Where you just kind of feel like everything you're giving them, you're not really getting much in return other than a paycheck, right? Which a paycheck is very important. Trust me, we need those. And so I think for me, it was that once I started my business, it gave me that drive, like that passion. It kind of lit that fire back up. So kind of like Corey was saying, he wakes up every day and he's ready to go to work, right? And I think that that's what I was looking for. I love going to work and being an employee and giving them their 8 hours a day, devoting that, and then coming home and working on myself. And was I debt free? No, I'm still in debt. Trust me. Just like it can't go away, but we're just habitual spenders. At least I am. And no, I did not have a lot of money saved. I did just jump in without planning. And again, that kind of goes back to why I strongly recommend attending conferences and networking with people in the industry, not in your state, in another state. You just get more receptive. It's more receptive.
I would say, you have to really evaluate if you're going to go out on your own, you really have to evaluate your own security in those things. Like I have a family, I have a daughter. I actually researched my business for probably about 4 years before I started it. I was actually walking through a space and wanting to go into open a space, a few days before I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. And I was in graduate school. I had just started this job at the Masonic Cancer Center. And I put the dream on pause because I thought, no way I could be a new mom and like all the things. I'm ambitious, but like realistic at the same time. And so it never did go away. So I had been saving for some of it. There are also lots of creative ways for you to raise money. So I don't think you should see money as a barrier for growing business. I'm definitely not debt free. I pray that, the Biden-Harris administration forgives our student loans because that would be awesome. And I don't think you need to be. I think if you are smart about the way that you invest your money and that your business is viable, that there's a need for it, there's a space for it. Maybe you have some insight data and in that your business would be successful. I do always suggest to be flexible about your vision. Like I envisioned an independent store is how I would start. And it's not at all how I started. I piloted. I have a partner that owns a hair salon. I piloted in her space initially for the first 4 or 5 months before with full intention on getting into a bigger space, but we share a space now. So we have a little bit more security in each other's businesses running and not taking on the burden of cost and construction solely. Those are the kinds of things that really helped. So just being flexible and creative about the way that we approach it, because you have to be realistic that, you may have to pay rent or mortgage or have kids or, bills and things you have to feed yourself in this process. So I don't necessarily suggest jumping in totally without a plan. Like some things you won't plan, but yeah, I think it's possible as long as you're realistic about how it fits into your life.
And Dustin or Corey, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I had answered online also. It's very dependent about what the capital needs are of your venture. I mean, it depends if you're starting up a software as a service company that is pretty much all you and what's in between your ears, or you need to start a manufacturing company that's going to involve capital machinery and inventory and months of rent. And so it's going to be very dependent on what your venture is. For me, I know it's been expensive to start this company, and it took me years, like cutting down how much of my checks I could save from my own jobs to like keep putting it into the business until I was able to fund it. And if you definitely, there's a lot of resources out there for small businesses to start and reduce the capital costs through the Department of Agriculture if you're in a food related business, or if in most other businesses, the Department of Economic Development, DEED, in Minnesota has many funding opportunities also. And so getting into these organizations and being able to understand what opportunities are out there and what funding is out there to help you start is definitely a huge bonus to starting a business.
For our business, there's extremely low cost entry, which is one of the reasons why there's so much competition. So for me, yeah, I saved some money, while I was kind of contemplating this, and then opened up a whole bunch of credit cards.
I mean, it's the reality of it. Sometimes if you have a vision in mind, you want to make progress towards it. Looks like there's a question here about resources and maybe influencers in your life. So maybe what resources or books, subscriptions, keynote speakers, or people who have been influential in your growth as a person, as an entrepreneur. Talk a little bit about that. And we have only a few minutes left to this conversation. So maybe about a minute or so.
For me, resources are, like I said, there's a handful of local nonprofit business resource centers like SCORE. There's one in St. Paul that I'm blanking on, and META, that can kind of help you, or neighborhood development center, I think is what the St. Paul one is. So there's a bunch of different resources that you can tap into for growth and helping get your business on track. And then I'm also, like I said, volunteered with the Chamber of Commerce, and I am a member of the Black Chamber of Commerce. So I continuously connect with entrepreneurs in that space.
Thank you.
For me, influential people who influenced me was myself, because I knew that I just wanted more. And so you just find so many people and so many things. I know. So I've read a few books, but I can't remember the name of them. I read a lot of books that are about people's journeys and that are women writers. So that's what I read, because that's just what I relate to. So just finding something that you relate to is going to give you that motivation. It's funny because I read like fashion books, like people who came up in the fashion industry, people who just do different things than me, because photo boothing is not like very, very popular. So people don't write books. Maybe I'll write the first photo booth book. But yeah, so just finding something and a tone that will motivate you and help you keep going.
Yeah, and then just quickly, as I had said on the chat, but there's a book called Blue Ocean Strategy, and I think this is a great book as far as finding what your niche is in the market. As a small business, you're out there competing with, in Felipa's world, or there's huge in Kara's world. I was gonna say, the what are the big cut or the stylist salons out there. I'm not your target customer. I'm not your demographic. I don't know what the salons are, but there's huge companies out there that you're going to be competing with, and finding what your niche is in that world is going to be critical to your success. And so this book is all about like how to find that niche and measure its size and determine if this is something that you can actually go into and make a living doing.
Dustin, I'm pretty sure you can go to the nail bar anytime and get a pedicure. I'm sure you can do it.
At the end of the beekeeping season, my feet are trash, so I would be there.
Yeah, and I would just say that there's tons of resources online, whether it's TED Talks or, whatever it is of, YouTube videos. I mean, I feel like so many conferences right now are putting, the videos of their speakers online. So there's just like so much information out there, in addition to just people that I looked up to, or, I sort of like viewed them as a mentor, even if they like weren't, like a formal mentor of mine. Just people that you kind of look up to and want to try to, kind of, hey, that guy's successful. I want to be like him. I want to do things that he's doing or she's doing. That's kind of what it was for me. It wasn't, because I think that like, as far as books are concerned, I'm the same way. I like to read a lot. But then I kind of get stuck sometimes too in the space of, do I want to be a doer or a reader? And I'd rather just kind of get out and make some mistakes and see what happens.
Well, thank you so much for your great advice and information each of you provided. Thank you, Felipa Cespedes of FotoGenic, Kira Ellis of the Nail Bar, Corey Kopacek from Synergy Imports, and Dustin Venezi from Bear Honey. Thank you to each of you for all of your nuggets of wisdom and information, and I'm sure our audience today enjoyed lots of information that you provided. Again, I will be sending out the recording of this webinar within 2 to 3 business days. I'll also have an opportunity for each of our audience members to provide feedback through our evaluation survey. And that survey is also an opportunity to provide ideas for future topics that you like to see or hear from the Alumni Association. So definitely give us your feedback. And yes, thank you everyone for your time and energy that you put into today's webinar, and have a great day.
Thanks everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.